All right, it says we're live. It's 7:30, and this is the Liberty is Essential webcast, uh, brought to you in conjunction with our new Liberty is Essential network platform. If you're watching this, and right now it looks like we've got two folks watching, that probably means that you found out about this through the Liberty is Essential network. Want to welcome you. It sounds like I'm talking to myself all of a sudden.
Yep, that was me.
That
Sorry
must
about that.
come through. Folks, by the way, if you don't know, the good-looking guy in your video feed is Christopher Bilbrey. He is the host and purveyor of wisdom through Perception is Reality with Christopher Bilbrey. And he is, I consider him to be a personal friend and someone who was nice enough to invite me onto his podcast several times during and right after the gubernatorial campaign. And so I invited him to join me tonight because I figure if I screw this up bad enough, I can blame it on somebody else. But
That's
we want to, as you know, as some of you know, I wanted to do this kind of as a trial run, a dry run, to see exactly make sure that things are working correctly and that people can view the podcast. We again want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining the network. And I know I need to, let me see now if I can get the chat to work. An error occurred. It doesn't want to play back for me. I'll bet it's, let me see here. You get to watch me see whether or not things are working.
Click buttons.
Obviously, you saw something, didn't you?
Yeah. So I see her. Okay. So Cassandra just said sounds good on her side.
Good.
So she's still there.
Well, good. I will trust her and trust you because obviously you can see us.
Yeah.
And Cassandra can see us. Cassie can see us. And of course, right now we don't have anybody else evidently watching. But the nice thing is I look over here on my Liberty is Essential dashboard, and I can see that my event says that we're live right now.
Yes, I see that.
So that's a positive thing. See, that's a good thing. I'm happy about that. One of the things, and here again, I know I'm talking to Chris and Cassie, but somebody else might pop on, and so I want to act like I'm actually doing something, something I try to get out of all day long when I'm working. And most politicians try to do for the entire time they're in elected office, trying to get out of doing something. But what we, one of the things that we want to do is point out that within the network platform, we have the ability to create topics that you can post, whether it's a post or an article, or if you want to do a video yourself, you can add that on a particular topic. And right now we've got topics, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, education, taxation, healthcare, the Indiana General Assembly, the 2022 elections, fundraising. And if you want to add topics, if you don't want to add it, tell us what you want. We'll add the topic. I'm sure we're going to add topics on things as we start talking about things and say, there ought to be a topic on that. My big thing right now is education. I think that we are at a crossroads where, strangely enough, and I don't know, Chris, I'm sure you've noticed this, and I'd love to get your perspective on the fact that suddenly people are going to school board meetings to complain about the quality of education, or in this case, the curriculum choices of the government schools that have been run for over a decade by the supermajority in the Indiana General Assembly, which is the Indiana Republican Party.
Yeah.
And I keep telling people, stop going to the school board meetings. If you really care about the quality of your kids' education, yank them out of the government schools. Because until we take that away from the government and say, we're just not going to send our kids to your crappy schools anymore, they're going to keep doing what they're doing, and we're going to keep getting what they're getting. But I'm going to shut up for a minute. I'd like to hear what you have to think about that.
Well, that's absolutely true. I mean, there's a couple different things that's been going on. I think that I've noticed it. I mean, obviously, since the middle of last year with COVID occurring and all of the goings on with that, schools closing down, and I've got a couple, people that I'm very close with, specifically in the Henry County, Indiana school system, and their school boards have absolutely been packed because they were preemptively shutting down, and it was for everything from COVID. That they were doing it with winter weather. They were supposed to have a winter weather event on Monday, and so they were shutting down on Thursday and Friday. And they've got these things where all the kids get laptops now, and they just send them home with these laptops, in the middle of the week and say, okay, well, you've got your laptop at home. We probably are not going to school on Thursday and Friday. And, you get to a point where then there's days that they are going and kids are being late because parents don't know if they're going or not going. You've got, in today's culture where most marriages end in divorce at some point, a lot of people are single parents. And you've got a lot of craziness going on as far as that goes. And so people are up in arms over that. And then, with this influx of the whole critical race theory topics and various other topics, going on, you always see stories out of like New York where they're talking about sex ed class for first graders and whatnot. And you've got parents who are rightfully upset, who for the first time in forever is attending school board meetings, and it's an amazing thing to see. I think that's fantastic. Of course, that's my whole shtick, is trying to get people to attend meetings, whether it's the sanitary district board meeting or the board of works meeting, or, not everybody can go to 100 different meetings like I do all over the state of Indiana. You normally pick a meeting that speaks to you. And, if you're a parent and you've got kids that are kindergarten through, 12th grade, I can't think of anything more important than school board. And, I think that's amazing that parents are starting to go there. And, we've talked about that when you were on the podcast several times about, the state of education or, charter schools or whatnot. And I agree with you that I think it's amazing to see so many parents are starting to say, screw it, we'll do it. If this is what you're trying to force us, we'll show you we can do it. And, maybe that'll right the ship. I don't know.
Well, and I'm right there with you as far as attending meetings. I think it's very important that we as citizens stop watching television and having television tell us what our government is doing, and that we spend more time actually being there.
Yeah.
And that's something that we don't get a lot of. We need more of. But I think it's really important that somebody, while you're telling people go to a meeting, sounds like we're all in AA, but in a way we are, right? We're addicted to big government as a society, and we need to go to a meeting. We need to go look and see what big government's actually doing and why we need to get rid of it. And when I get rid of it, I don't mean get rid of government. I'm not a burn it all down guy. Anybody that knows me knows that what I am is a let's shrink it guy.
Yeah.
And, it's like my gut. It needs to be smaller. I don't want to get rid of the whole thing. I need it. But I want it smaller because it causes me too much discomfort when it gets too big, and such as the government. And but I'm the guy that says, here again, if you don't like what the government's doing, you have to kind of look at it like, and I hate to use this example, but I think it's a valid one. If you've got a tumor, the first thing they want to do is cut off the blood supply. Well, the blood supply to government is taxes. And the blood supply to the public education or government education system are people sending their kids. Most people maybe don't know that the schools get funding from the state based on a head count. And if the head count in a school gets too small, then the money stops coming in. And if we really want to get the attention of the right people, then I think cutting off the head count can go a long way to doing that. Absolutely. I also get a kick out of all the people, you talk about everybody going to the school board meetings now. And I talk to people that say, well, what good is it to go to a school board meeting? They don't have any power. And I want to say, well, whose fault is that? You keep voting for the same Indiana GOP people who are sucking the power away from the local school board and the school administration and parents because they want, they've got Tim Allen syndrome. They want more power.
Yeah.
And, it's hard because you're right. You want people to be engaged, but you also want them to understand that sometimes you have to, for lack of a better term, you got to boycott government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's we've seen that more. I mean, in the last year in Indiana with the Indiana General Assembly, from school boards, on up to just regular how county government works, and what the state Indiana General Assembly wants your commissioners to be allowed to do. They were dealing with, what was it, House Bill 1381, where they were wanting to take the power away from home rule. They wanted to let Indianapolis decide if Randolph County or Henry County or Delaware County or wherever wanted the solar energy or the wind turbines.
Right.
There was this big push, and it made for a very weird situation because I've been active in Henry County now for about the last year. And there's a large group of the people in Henry County government that I'm not really happy with, but we happen to be on the same side of the argument fighting that, because you've got these people down in Indianapolis doing what they always do, saying, you guys are not smart enough to do this, and we feel like we know better for you. So, we'll take away this home rule. And it's funny then to look at how many of these guys are getting money from the the renewable energy companies, and that's great to look at. And I don't know how many people did that, but they're doing it from every aspect, from school board on up to your county commissioners are no longer smart enough to be your county commissioners. So, you're right. At some point, something's going to happen. If we can't force it that way, maybe a boycott of the government in that way does work. I don't know what it is yet. I've not figured that out.
Well, and of course that's the big the question I always get is, well, how do you think you can be effective as a third party candidate. And, I don't think I think you can just take that third party candidate out of there, and you can look at pretty much any Hoosier and go, how are you going to get the government you want by yourself?
Right.
And what you want is for people to realize that we must come together. I don't ask that question hoping that people will cower in the corner and give up. I want people to get mad. Now, I don't want them to get violent. I don't advocate violence. I'm a libertarian. We don't believe in changing government through force or fraud. We believe that the way you make change is by like-minded people coming together, understanding that the greatest of bonds, in my opinion, is the desire for individual liberty. If we get enough of us together who just want to be left the hell alone, right?
Right.
All I ask is that you let me screw up my own life.
Right.
Quit trying to do it for me.
Yeah.
Because if I screw up my life, I pay the consequences.
Sure.
But when government screws up my life, I still pay the consequences, but I'm not the one to blame.
Yeah, right.
And that means I can't fix it. I can't do it better next time. We were talking on a podcast I was on last night about the concept of, being able to choose my own destiny. That's what liberty is. Liberty is the right to make your own mistakes.
Yeah.
And to have to fix them on your own. And the thing is, I believe that all human nature is really rooted in the idea that all I want to do is make my own mistakes.
Absolutely.
And we just need to find a bunch of people who are willing to get together and say, let us make our own mistakes.
Yeah, well, I tell this story a lot to various different people because I think it's one of the most basic principles that my life was based upon, because my dad would say it all the time. But I was just telling this story yesterday. When I was like in ninth grade, I had this class that was completely on the opposite end of the building from where I took fifth period gym and had to take a shower. And that teacher would mark you tardy if you were not inside the classroom, but if your butt wasn't in the seat, you were tardy. Oh. And so I was tardy like 17 times in a period of just a very quick order because I'd shower after gym, And I tried various different things. Like I just couldn't do it. I talked to her, talked to the gym teacher, talked to the principals, but she would mark me tardy every time. And I got to a point where we were going to have an outside like Friday field day. And they called off a bunch of names like at the end of the day on Friday, and they said, you guys all have in-school, or on Thursday, you guys all have in-school suspension. On Friday, you can't go outside. And I was with my dad, and he asked me what was wrong, and I said, I don't want to do in-school suspension tomorrow. And he said, well, what would you rather do? And I said, I'd rather go outside and play with my friends, outside, mess around or whatever. And he said, well, what happens if you do that? I said, I don't really know. I think we get 3 days of in-school suspension on the front side of the weekend, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And he said, well, sounds like to me you got to make a choice. You can do what you want to do, but you got to be willing to pay the consequences. So I go to school Friday. I go outside, have a blast. It was a wonderful day. Have the weekend, have a wonderful weekend. We get back to school on Monday. I get called down to the principal's office first thing. And the principal says, hey, why were you not in school suspension on Friday? And I simply said, my dad told me I didn't have to, which is not what my dad told me. He calls my dad. He's like, why did you, and dad's like, that's not what I told him. But that, I learned that, and dad had said that before then, but that's, I've tried living my life that way. Let me do me. because I am well aware of what the consequences are. And, I have lived my life by doing what I want to do and knowing that some consequences are, I'm willing to pay and some I'm not. And I think that I've done well that way.
Well, and see, I'm right there with you. I think that it's eminently important that people understand that government really isn't protecting you when it's trying to make your life choices for you. Government's protecting somebody else.
Yes.
When government says you can't buy alcohol on Sunday, they're not protecting you. They're protecting somebody's profit margin.
Yeah.
And when somebody's profit margin became dependent upon Sunday sales, they changed that law. Now it's not bad for you to buy alcohol on Sunday anymore. It won't hurt you anymore. And it'll be the same thing with cannabis.
Right.
Today, Governor Dishonest stands up there during the debates and says, well, we need to do more research. Well, there's been plenty of research. There are like 33 or 34 states that have legalized and decriminalized cannabis, either for medicinal and or recreational purposes. And they did the research. So the research is out there. We know what the truth is, but they're protecting somebody.
Sure.
It's in somebody else's best interest. They don't give a plug nickel about Christopher Bilbrey and Donald Rainwater.
Sure.
Because we don't have the money to be somebody that they're worried about.
Right.
And as soon as we as citizens, especially in the state of Indiana, start realizing that it's not what they say, it's what they do. And that even when they win, we lose. That's the thing. Somebody told me, said, well, I vote Republican because I want to be a winner. And I'm like, no, they're a winner, but you're still a loser. Because they're not doing what you wanted them to do, or you wouldn't be talking to me right now.
That's right.
And you see the light bulb go off and you go, aha, another converted voter. But yeah, and that's why this is one of the main reasons why, obviously, I invited you to join me not only here tonight, but in the Liberty as Essential platform. If somebody watches this later, when we post it, we've created a group called Perception is Reality. It's hosted by Christopher. He's going to kind of curate the content, and hopefully he'll post there every so often, put his podcast videos up there for your consumption. And, we don't want just my opinion. I enjoy my opinion, obviously, or I wouldn't share it. But we want different viewpoints. We want to approach liberty-minded debate and conversation that's healthy and productive, and we want people to communicate with each other. There's too much yelling and screaming and name calling, and not enough, well, hey, just explain to me why you think that's the way it ought to be. And I'll tell you why I disagree with you. And you might be able to change my mind, or I might be able to move you a little bit in my direction. Who knows?
Sure.
But that's kind of why we wanted to do this, because I think, Facebook has become, I dread getting on Facebook.
Right.
Because I don't mind so much people ripping into me and calling me names and telling me that I'm, everything but sane. I don't mind that. But when they start doing it to each other, oh my goodness, it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Because especially when you see people who are supposed to be like-minded,
Right.
who find that needle in a haystack and start nitpicking each other about it. And instead of just having well, you're a commie. No, they just have a little bit different opinion about implementation than you do. Let's have a conversation. Let's just not all of a sudden call somebody a communist because they don't agree 100% with you.
Right.
And that was one of the comments I made last night on that podcast about freedom of religion. The First Amendment does not ensure Christians freedom of religion. It ensures all freedom of religion. The government shall make no religion. And therefore, there is no, when people say, well, we're a Christian nation, that's not constitutional. I'm sorry. I may be a Christian myself, but according to the First Amendment, Muslims are free to be Muslims. Hindu are free to be Hindu. The Buddhists are free to be Buddhists. The atheists are free to be atheists. And I will stand up and defend their right to their religious beliefs just as much as I will my own.
Absolutely.
That's what we've got to get back to. It's okay if we disagree, as long as we disagree constructively. And that's where I hope this will lead us. So I appreciate you, obviously you did this on literally almost a moment's notice. And I appreciate you doing it. And I'm going to give you a little more heads up next time. And there will be a next time because I enjoy talking to you, whether there's 2 people watching or 200.
Absolutely.
And I think you've got a lot to say. And the next time, when we do have more people watching, I'm going to start asking you questions about how you got involved in local politics, especially up there in the Muncie and Hendry County area. I know you are you stomp all over the meetings in Muncie. So
yep.
That's something that we'll want to get into next time.
Absolutely.
And so what is next for you, by the way, as we're getting ready to wrap up here? When's your next podcast come out? I did post a link in the Perception is Reality group where people can find where your podcast is located. But just, plug yourself here real quick.
Yeah. Just yesterday was Tuesday, so my new podcast episodes come out every Tuesday. I release every Tuesday. Sometimes they're on Wednesdays, but I release on Tuesday or Wednesday. And I have a new episode out right now. It's called, I believe it's called A Cold Beer with Will Bird. He is a United States veteran, disabled veteran, father and a husband. He has a political show himself on YouTube called Cold Beer Confessional, where he is trying to dismantle all of these grifters and con artists that are out here plugging that we're under a coup right now and Donald Trump's getting ready to swing back into power. And he's, because it's really dangerous what they're doing.
Yep.
They're lumping people together. Everyone that's conservative is getting called this crazy. And these people are grifting. They're making money hand over fist. Meanwhile, people like you and I who know what we're talking about and try to be factual, it's hard for us to come up while these people are out here doing what they're doing and making everybody that now has a show seem crazy. So that's kind of what his bag is, and he's got a great platform going. So I had an episode with him, and we talked with him. It was a great conversation, so everybody should check that out. You can find me on all major podcast hosting sites or at my home link, which is perception.fireside.fm. So that's that.
Awesome. Well, Chris, again, thank you so much for stepping up and helping me through this first 30-minute trial run, if you will. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support you've given me. And I look forward to us doing a lot of messaging.
Absolutely.
Over the next few years, especially between now and November of 2022, when I fully intend to flush the septic tank that is 200 West Washington Street. So
that works.
Thank you so much,
Thank
folks.
you.
I know there's 2 of you watching right now, it looks like, and hopefully there will be many more that watch this recorded. We thank you, and we'll see you again soon. Have a great evening.
See you.